You know that feeling when you're in a spreadsheet and you're doing the exact same clicks, the same formatting, over and over and over again? It's a huge time waster. Well, today we're going to unlock a secret weapon that's already built right into your software, macros. Let's dive in and see how they can totally change the way you work. Seriously, does this sound familiar? You're formatting a report, you select some cells, make them bold, change the font color, add a border. Okay, done. Now you move to the next section, and you do it all again. It gets old fast, right? And it's not just boring. It's the perfect way to make a tiny accidental mistake that you won't notice until it's too late. But what if you could do all of that with just a single click? Now, it's not magic, it's a macro. And by the end of this quick explainer, you'll know exactly how to get your software to do all that heavy lifting for you. So here's our game plan. First, we'll cover what a macro actually is. Then, we're going to walk through recording your very first one. After that, we'll talk about how to put it to use, cover the pros and cons, and finally, look at some real-world examples to really get your ideas flowing. So, what is a macro, really? The easiest way to think about it is like this. It's your own personal assistant who lives inside your spreadsheet. You just have to show it how to do a boring, repetitive task once, and from then on, your assistant will do it for you perfectly, every single time. Okay, so for the more technical definition, a macro is simply a saved sequence of your actions. Every single click, every keystroke, every little command you make, it can all be recorded and bundled together into one package. And once it's saved, you can replay that entire sequence instantly with just one command. And why is that so powerful? Well, the benefits are huge. Yeah, you automate those mind-numbing tasks, which of course saves a ton of time. But honestly, the real magic is that you slash the chances of human error. The macro does the task the exact same way every time, which means your work stays perfectly consistent. And that is absolutely critical for things like reports and data analysis. All right, enough theory, let's get our hands dirty. It is time to record our very first macro. And don't worry, you do not need to be a programmer for this. All you have to know is how to do the task yourself just one more time. The whole process is actually way simpler than it sounds. First, you find and start the recorder. It's usually in the Tools or View menu. Then you just do your thing. Perform the task exactly like you normally would, formatting cells, typing, applying formulas, whatever. The software is just watching and recording every step. When you're all done, you hit Stop Recording, give your macro a name you'll remember, something like format_monthly report, and save it. That's it. You've done it. And this right here is the whole point. Just think about that for a second. A whole process that might have taken you dozens of clicks in a few minutes is now squeezed down into a single command. It's literally the difference between doing the work yourself and having an assistant do it for you in the blink of an eye. Okay, so you've recorded the instructions for your new assistant. Now it's time to put it to work. Let's unleash that automation and see how you can actually run your new macro. You've basically got two main options here. The standard way is to just go back into that Tools menu, find your list of macros, pick the one you want, and click Run. Simple enough. But the second method, this is where things get really cool. You can actually insert a clickable button right onto your spreadsheet and assign your macro to it. From then on, a single click on that button runs the whole sequence. It makes your spreadsheet feel less like a document and more like a custom app you built yourself. Now, macros are incredibly powerful. There's no doubt about it. But like any tool, it is really important to understand both their strengths and their weaknesses. So let's talk about the power and the potential pitfalls. Let's break this down because knowing the limits is just as important as knowing the benefits. So the advantages are obvious. You save time, you boost accuracy, you simplify complex jobs. But on the other side of the coin, first, if you make a mistake while you're recording, your macro will perfectly repeat that same mistake every single time you run it. Second, if you want to edit or tweak a macro, you usually have to look at the underlying code, which can feel a little intimidating. And most importantly, and I really want you to hear this, there is a security risk. Because macros can run code, a malicious file from an unknown source can contain a virus. So my number one rule for you is this: never enable macros in a file unless you know exactly where it came from and you trust the source. All right, enough with the warnings. Let's get back to the exciting stuff. How can you actually use this in your day-to-day work? Let's move from theory to practice. Just start thinking about your own workflow. Do you create the same kind of report every month? Well, record a macro to apply all your standard formatting in one go. Do you need to calculate totals and averages on new data all the time? A macro can do that. You can even create a macro that pulls key info from a giant, messy data table and builds a nice, clean summary report on a brand new sheet. The possibilities are really only limited by the repetitive tasks you do every day. And this all brings us to the most important point of all. So often, we feel like we're working for our software, clicking through all these hoops just to get something done. Macros completely flip that relationship on its head. You get to customize the tool to fit your needs. You're finally making the software work for you. So I'm going to leave you with a challenge. Think about your own work right now. What is the one tedious, repetitive task that drives you crazy? The one you do all the time. That's your first target. That's the perfect place to start. So go for it. What will you automate first?